My host, good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening. How is everything, sir?
We thank God, sir. How is everything, sir?
Okay. Very fine. We thank God. Please. Okay. So, welcome. Thank you for your time and thank you for logging on today. My name is Ibrahim Taiwo again. I'll be taking, I'll continue with my management information. The last class, I hope you guys are preparing for this exam. I pray success. I pray for success by God's grace. And happy Ramadan for those of us that are Muslims. Okay. Okay. So in the last class, I think we started with budget and I explained functional budget for us. So I'm not expecting the examiner to be tough on you when it comes to functional budget. I get what I'm saying now. So I don't know. These are the example of functional budgets, about 2 or 3 questions in your past questions, which I know it will not be beyond this when it comes to functional budget. So what I will say here is that I want you guys to look into this functional budget that I've highlighted. I hope I get what I'm saying. No, I highlighted the steps of preparation of functional budget and what are the ways to prepare it, and look at this example. All these examples. So I would not want to delve into other questions. It's possible you just want to have a look and all that, but it's not these the questions. This Abax Limited is not your level. I guess in report. Those of the past questions of yours, these are the past questions. I hope that gets what I'm saying now. So which I've actually talked about the last time. So now that is that. So what I will go to today quickly, so that we can have a touch on most of these topics, is that I will go to cost volume profit analysis. I hope that gets what I'm saying. Let me go to cost volume profit analysis and see. Let me go to cost volume profit analysis. Now, okay. My host, please, can you see my screen, sir?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen, sir.
Oh.
For your network.
Thank you. I just want to be sure. Yeah. The voice is not stable, right? Sorry, yes, 1 minute. Let me work on that, please. Let me work on that. Now let's now take this. Welcome, Mr. Welcome, Mr. Bishop Sonkeyinde and Oluwadamilola Richard. Welcome. Welcome to the class. Let's quickly look at cost volume profit analysis. I sent the note to you not quite long. I mean, the afternoon. Now, when we say cost volume profit analysis, what do we mean by this? Now you see, cost volume profit analysis is a topic that borders on how cost of productions and the profit react to changes in the quantity produced of a product. Listen again. Cost volume profit analysis is a topic that borders on studying the relationship between the cost of productions and the profits we are making at different level of what? Different level of output. Let me be hypothetical about it. Assuming you are producing a product, and the product you are producing, maybe you are producing bread, and you are a manager, you now want to see how to make decisions about these bread productions in such a way that you maximize your profits. Now, if you are now studying the relationship between the cost of producing that bread, that's the cost of flour, cost of sugar, cost of salt, and so on, that's what you're using in producing the bread, and the profit you are making in the process. Now, the relationship between this cost of productions and the profit you are making, if you are looking at that relationship at different level of bread productions, then you are what? And you are using that relationship, studying on that relationship to make decisions for the organizations. So you say you are doing what? You are doing cost, volume, profit analysis. It means that analysis that look into the relationship of cost of productions and the what? And the profits made in the process at different level of what? Of productions, or we call it at different level of what? Of volume. That's what we call cost, volume, profit analysis. I get what I'm saying. Now, you now want to see, why is a manager interested in knowing the relationship between the cost of productions and the profits? Why is he interested? I get him. He's interested in knowing those relationships, that relationship, because he will want to make a decisions. I get him. A decision that will better the lot of the organizations. That's why those relationships are meant to be studied. Hopefully, I get what I'm saying now. So, in a nutshell, if I'm talking about cost volume profit analysis, our focus here will be the study of the what? Of the relationship between the cost of productions and the profit made, the way the cost and profit are reacting, I get him, at different level of what? Of quantity. And the reason why we are studying that relationship is to make decisions. And you need to quickly know that if you are making decisions with this knowledge of CVP, there are some assumptions that you have to abide with. I guess, and I know when they say assumptions, I hope you know the meaning of assumptions. Assumption simply means, what are those things that you have to hold constant? What are those things you have to hold constant if you want to run? If you want to what? You want to use CVP to make a decisions. What are the variables that must not change? What are those things that have to be held constant if you are making a decision regarding the CVP? Those are the things that the assumption. Let me give an instance. If you say the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. All things being equal. That's provided other factors affecting what? Affecting demand are what? Are constant. I hope you get what I'm saying now. Example is taste. If the taste is not changing, I get what I'm saying now. Then, if the price goes up, the quantity must come down. But if the taste is now changing, then even if the price goes up, the quantity will also go up. You understand what I'm saying now? That is what they mean by assumption. So, what are the assumptions of CVP? What are those things that must be held constant, that must not change if you are using CVP? Those things are: one, fixed cost is what is constant. Variable cost per unit is constant. Contribution per unit is constant. Technology is constant. Mixed cost is what is resolvable into a fixed and variable component. Look at it. All these costs are constant. Fixed cost is constant. Variable cost per unit is constant. Contribution per unit is constant. And also, technology is constant. We are assuming that there is no change in technology. And also, if you have a mixed cost, I hope you know the meaning of mixed cost. A mixed cost is a cost that combines both fixed and variable costs together. If you have a mixed cost, one of the assumptions of CVP is that mixed cost will have to be separated easily into this fixed and variable component. I hope you get what I'm saying. That means that if you have a mixed cost, one of the assumptions of CVP is that mixed cost is resolvable into its fixed and variable component. It must be easy for you to separate the fixed cost into its variable and fixed component. And also, number 6, we assume that we are producing only one product under CVP. that assume that the company is producing only one product. And also, if more than one is produced, the sales mix is constant. I hope you understand what they mean by that. It means that if more than one is produced, then we say the sales mix is constant. You now need to ask me, what do they mean by sales mix? You need to ask me, what is what? Sales mix. Sales mix simply means the ratio of sales of each of the products in questions. Let's say, for instance, you are producing two products. You are producing donuts and cake. And the ratio of what of donuts and cake are ratio 2 to what? To 1. It means that whenever you produce 2 of donuts, you produce what? 1 of cake. If you produce 2 of donuts, you produce 1 of cake. That means that the mix, the sales mix is ratio 2 to 1. All right. That's the ratio at which you sell the two products. I hope I get what I'm saying now. That ratio of 2 to 1 must not change. It must not change over time into 3 to 1 or 4 to 1. It must continue to be 2 to 1. That's one of the assumptions in game. And also, the selling price, we are assuming that our selling price is not changing. And it's not realistic in real life. It's not realistic. Because why would you say my selling price is not changing? I get what I'm saying now. That's very important. And also, number 8, production is equal to what? Is equal to sales. I hope you know. When they say production is equal to sales, I hope you know the meaning. There is no closing inventory. So it means that under the CVP, we are assuming that what we produced is exactly what it was, what they sold. I hope I get what I'm saying. What they produced is exactly what they sold. So that is that for that. So in case the examiner asks you, what are the assumptions of CVP? Now, after explaining those assumptions of CVP, now we now need to look at it that under CVP, there are 2 ways in which CVP can come in the exam. One of the ways is what you are going to take care of. The other way is for the next level. Let me explain. For better understanding, explanation of the CVP will be divided into 2 parts. Can you now see? CVP will be divided into 2 parts. The part 1 is that what? When one product is produced. We are assuming that when one product is produced, but that's what they call monoproduct environment. I hope I get what I'm saying now. When one product is produced. The second division is what? Is when more than one product is what? Is produced. That's multi-product environment. I hope I get what I'm saying now. So we have monoproduct environment, we have multi-product environment. So in the exam, your own exam at knowledge level, what the examiner is going to ask you is a monoproduct environment. In your syllabus, we are not going to treat multi-product. I just put it there just for future's sake. Assuming you are what you are reading and you are in next level, you want to use this material, you can obviously use this material. I guess, but at this level, what you'll be tackling with, what you'll be dealing with is what is monoproduct. I hope I get it. So look at it. Now, monoproduct means that we are assuming we are producing only one product. Now look at what I'm saying. Monoproduct environment. In a situation where we have one product produced, the following are the relevant formulae that will assist in decision making. So in a monoproduct environment, we are assuming you are producing only one product. And if you are producing only one product, then how do you make decisions using CVP? And that is what we want to look at now. So if you have any question, please let me know. Is there any questions? Mr. Abhishek, Mr. Abhishek? Is there any questions? I hope you guys are following. Are we following? Are we following? Okay. Okay, let's go. Okay, thank you. I just want to be sure we are together. Okay, thank you, Richard. Thank you so much. Now, okay, let's go on, please. Now, when one product is produced, that is what we call a monoproduct environment. Okay, thank you, Mr. Abhishek. Thank you. Appreciate. Just want to be sure. Okay, one product is produced. Now, the second approach is when one product is produced, when that one product is produced, that's multi-product environment. We don't need that at this level. So let us look at our monoproduct environment. Now, under the monoproduct environment, how do we make a decision? Before you can make a decision using CDP, you have to understand some formula. I guess in those formula, they must have treated it in class with you. But let us quickly run through those formula that will be needed for what? For the monoproduct environment. The first formula is what? Is contribution per unit. That's when we say contributions. Contribution simply means sales minus variable cost. Please don't forget, only sales minus variable cost is your contribution. I'm not including fixed cost, because when you include fixed cost, it becomes a profit. I hope you understand what I'm saying now. Okay. If you understand what I'm saying, then the contribution per unit is equal to what? When we say contribution is sales minus variable cost. Let's say, for instance, I'm producing bread now. The bread I'm producing, what's the sales of my products? As soon as I sold 1,000 naira bread. But when I was producing the bread, I used 600 naira to produce one bread. Then what will be my contribution? My contribution will be 1,000 naira minus 600 naira. And that 600 naira is only variable cost anyway. So the balance is 400 naira, which is my contribution. So if you want to get your contribution is what? Your sales minus variable cost. Now, another one is what? Our contribution per unit. When they say something is per unit, that's contribution you are making per one of the products. Okay, that's what I'm saying now. The contribution you are making per one of the what? Of the product. So if that is the case, contribution per unit will now be, instead of it to be sales, it will now be selling, thank you, it will now be selling price. And instead of it to be variable cost, it will now be variable cost per unit. I hope that's what I'm saying now. So impliedly, it means that if you are looking for contribution per unit, it means that it will be selling price minus the variable cost per unit. Now, instead of it to be sales now, it will be for one, which is selling price. Instead of it to be variable cost, it will be per one, which is variable cost per one per unit. If you remove the variable cost per unit of the bread, if you remove it from the selling price of the bread, then you are going to get the contribution per unit of the what? Of the bread. That's contribution per unit. Please note what we mean by contribution per unit. That's selling price minus variable cost per unit. Now, the next one is break even. When you say you break even, you know the meaning of break even? Break even in unit simply means fixed cost over contribution per unit. That's fixed cost over contribution per. If you divide your fixed cost, I hope you know the meaning of fixed cost. Let's say, for instance, our fixed overhead cost in the organization is what? It's the cost of rent. Now, if you want to start producing bread now, and your cost of rent is 1 million naira, and the selling price of the bread is 10 naira, and the variable cost of producing the bread is 6 naira, they now ask you, what is the break even in units? It means that how many bread will you produce and sell for you to what? To cover your cost, and you're not making profit yet. I get me. That's a point where you'll be at the middle. You're dangling at the middle. I get me. At that point, you are neither making profit nor loss. But you're just I get what I'm saying. In which, if you can produce extra units above that unit, you are making profit. But if you produce one unit less of that unit, you are making a what? A loss. That point is the break-even in unit point. And you need to know that that point is a very critical point for an organization. Because if I'm a manager of an organization, I want to know what is my break-even in units, so that I will know how many units will I need to sell for me to cover my cost, even if I'm not making profit yet. To determine the break-even in units is now the fixed cost of the organization over contribution per unit. I hope you understand that. Now, that is, contribution per unit is selling price on a variable cost per unit. So it can also be repeated by saying fixed cost of the organization over selling price minus variable cost per unit. So that's how to get your break-even in unit. But sometimes it will have to get it in value. I hope you understand the difference between unit and value. Units are what you will count. I get it now. If I say 10 bread, that is unit. Why value is the monetary implication of that unit. I hope I get to the value is the monetary implication of that unit. If the unit is 1,000 units, I hope I get to answer. If the unit is what? Is 1,000 units. Then the question now is that if the selling price is 22 naira, then that will be 1,000 times 2. That's what? 2,000 naira. That will be the break even in what? In value. So break-even in units, if you want to compare, if you want to convert to break-even in value, just multiply the break-even in units by the respective selling price. I get it. So that's that. But if you want to get a break-even in value again another way, what will you do? You just multiply the fixed cost of the organization by what we call, you have read contribution per sales ratio before. Contribution per sales ratio is looking at what's the ratio of your contribution to sales. I guess what I'm saying. It means that if my selling price is 10 naira, you can put it down. If my selling price is 10 naira and my variable cost per unit is what? Is 4 naira. Then I now say, what is my contribution per sales ratio in this system? That is contribution per unit over what? Over the selling price. Contribution per unit over the selling price. What is the contribution per unit? That's selling price minus variable cost, which is 10 minus 4 over what? That's contribution percentage is what? Over 10. That will basically means that what? If you are determining your contribution per sales ratio, contribution per sales ratio is determined by saying the contribution per unit over the selling price. And that is what we mean by selling price minus variable cost per unit, which is the contribution per unit over the selling price. It will give you the what? Contribution per sales ratio. I hope you are following. Now, after knowing the contribution per sales ratio, then you now want to see what's the break-even in value. Now, I can say my break-even in value can be fixed cost over that ratio. It's true up my value, break-even in value. And break-even in value is fixed cost over selling price and variable cost per unit times selling price. If you are finding for value, if you don't want to use contribution per sales ratio, we just find fixed cost over contribution per unit times what? Times selling price. Because fixed cost over contribution per unit is what we call the break-even in what? In units. Then when you now multiply the answer by selling price, then you get it in what? In value. Now let's look at it. Note, I want you to note this. Note, break-even point is a point in the life of business in which it neither makes profit nor loss. I explained it the last time. A point where you get to in which you neither make profit nor loss. That is, unit produced that results into no profit, no loss situations. Now, it's a safety point that every entrepreneur will look forward to achieve. Now, that means at that break-even point, every entrepreneur is looking forward for that point. I hope you understand what I'm saying now. So that's very instructive because that point will define that how many units are we producing in extra, how many units do we need to speed up to produce, and all that. All these decisions will be raised and taken care of by the break-even point. Now, also, they will give you information about the fixed cost. Fixed cost is a cost that remains unchanged despite changes in the quantity of what? Of goods produced. Volume of activity, e.g. the rent cost as well. Now, what I'm saying now is that when they call a cost a fixed cost, a fixed cost is more of a cost that remains unchanged despite the level of changes in the level, whatever the changes in the level of productions. Means that if you produce more of a product, I guess what I'm saying now. If you produce more of a product, then what is the variable cost? Those costs that will change with the change in the level of output is the variable cost. But the cost that will not change with the change in level of output is the fixed cost. So those costs that remain unchanged is the fixed cost. While the one that remain changeable because of the level of production is what? Is the variable cost. So if you are producing bread now and they ask you what is the variable cost of producing bread, what will you tell them? Let me have a review from the house. What will you tell them if you are producing bread now? What are the likely variable costs to take care of in the town if you are producing bread? What are the likely what? If you are producing bread, please. What are the likely variable costs that you will incur in the cost of production of bread? Let me know if you know. If you are producing bread, what are the likely variable costs you are going to incur? I know of one, which is flour. You will need flour. You will need what? Are those costs on the variable items? I get what I'm saying now. Now, our concern now is that how do we now determine other formulae? The next formulae that we need to determine is what? units to produce to achieve targeted profit. It's possible the organization is looking at achieving a targeted profit. That's a particular amount of profit they are looking at achieving. I guess how many units do they have to what? Have to produce to make that profit? That unit plus the profit you want to make and over the contribution per unit. Look at it. A targeted profit. That means that if I target to make $500,000, how many units will I first add it to the fixed cost of the organizations? And you now divide it by the contribution per unit. That's when you can get the unit to produce to achieve a targeted profit. You just add that targeted profit you are given in the question, add it to the fixed cost, whatever you get to selling price and available cost per unit. So if you divide the fixed cost per targeted profit, you divide it by selling price and available cost per unit, what you get is what? You get the product to achieve a targeted what? Profit. That is amount of units that you need to produce to achieve a particular amount of what? Or that profit in questions. So in the exam, if you see this kind of question, how many units will you sell? Add it to the fixed cost and divide it by the what sell to make the value of a product to achieve a target profit. It means that what is the monetary implication of that unit? What is the monetary implications of the unit? The monetary implication of the unit will be such that the value, if you want to find the value, it will now be fixed cost. It will now be fixed cost plus targeted profit over selling price and available cost per unit times what? Times selling price. There's they miss out selling price. They just multiply the answer by selling price. You have the contribution in value. I mean, you have the what? The unit to achieve in value. That's monetary terms. But if you want to use another formula, apart from that, you can still use your contribution per sales ratio. So what will you do? You will just say the fixed cost plus targeted profit over the contribution per sales ratio. And I think I've explained contribution per sales ratio to you. That's the ratio of contribution on sales. That is selling price and available cost per unit over selling price. That's contribution per sales ratio. You just add the fixed cost and targeted profits, add it together, you divide it by the contribution per sales ratio. You get the naira value that you're looking for. Now, carefully observe the relationship formulae D and E and also F and G. It should also be noted that in computation of CVP, listen, in computation of CVP, the targeted profit should be profit before tax. That is very sacrosanct. In the course of computing CVP, you have to know that the profit you are going to recognize is profit before tax. I hope I get not profit after tax. You know the difference between profit before tax and after tax. After tax is when you have removed money from the profit. Before tax is when you have not removed anything from the what? Tax from the profit. Now, in the question now, under the CVP, what you should take care of is profit before tax. We don't recognize taxations in these computations. Therefore, if you look at the questions very well, they said, look at it. It should also be noted that in computation of CVP, the targeted profit should be profit before tax and not profit after what? After tax. You know, the one that you have removed tax, that's when you're going to, before you remove tax, that's what you use. It means if given profit after tax in exam, you should first convert it to profit before tax before going ahead. Examiner can now be so clumsy sometimes that they will give you profit after tax. Then what will you do? You try to convert the profit after tax to profit before tax before going ahead to what? To compute anything. Now let's look at the way they convert. Profit before tax is equal to profit after tax over what? Over 1 minus tax rate. Look at it. This is profit before tax is equal to profit after tax, everything over 1 minus what? Minus the tax rate. I hope you're getting what I'm saying now. So they omitted over 1 minus tax rate in there. Now, the tax rate will be given in the exam, I hope you know, and that's that for that. So sometimes when they ask you to find what, let's look at it. Sometimes if the examiner asks you to find anything in what in CVP, you must know that the profits we are going to make use of is profit before tax and not profit after tax. If they give you profit after tax, you need to convert profit after tax to profit before tax, before they use it. The next thing is what margin of safety. So please, my host, 1 minute. Just give me 1-2 minutes. I want to ease myself. 1-2 minutes, please. 1-2 minutes. I want to ease myself, please. That is that. So look at it. If you now ask you, sometimes the examiner will ask you what is margin of safety. Let me explain what is margin of safety. Margin of safety is just looking at what is the relationship, what's the difference between your break-even sales and your what, and the sales you need to what, you need to make. Let's say, for instance, your break-even sales is 1,000 units. That's the units you are looking at selling. But you to break even, please, 1,000 units are selling to break even. But you now want to sell 1,200. You know, 1,200 is more than the units that will break even, because at 1,000 you break even already. But at 1,200, you know what I'm saying now? It means that you are producing or selling above the break even. What's the difference between the 1,000 break even and the 1,200 you want to sell now? Is 200. That 200 is what we call what? Margin of safety. Margin of safety simply means the extent at which the budgeted sales or the sales we want to make exceed the break-even sales. That's your margin of safety. So whenever I say margin of safety, it's different between what? Budgeted sales minus break-even sales. So if you look at it, margin of safety is very budgeted sales minus break-even sales. And they can even ask you to find it in percentage. Just say budgeted sales minus break-even sales over budgeted sales times 100 over 1. I get it. So all these formulas are very important. Note, the simple meaning of margin of safety is the extent to which the what, at which the budgeted sales level of the organization exceed the break-even unit, and the extent is what translates to what, to profit. It means that that margin of safety is what translates to what, to profit. Are you getting what I'm saying now? Now, all these are the formulas that you need to know. These are what they still repeated there, those formulas. So please note the formula. I hope you are getting me now. So that's what they still repeated there. Let us now look at it. This is now the break-even analysis in the multi-product environment. This is a multi-product environment now. We don't need this. I get me now. So let us now quickly go to questions and solve questions and see how a question will be solved, or we take given under a mono product. I hope you are getting me now. Let's quickly look at this, please. Let's quickly look at these questions. Let's look at it at your level, please. Baco Limited Kano produces what? Baco Limited Kano produces a single product with a selling price of 20 naira and variable cost of 12 naira. Fixed costs are 120,000 naira per annum. Look at what Baco is doing. The selling price of what Baco is selling is what? Is 20 naira. It means that he sells whatever he's selling at what? At 20 naira. And the variable cost of selling it is what? Is 12 naira. It means that whenever you want to sell it, the variable cost of selling is what? Is 12 naira. And the fixed costs are 120,000 naira per annum. So if I'm producing a bread now, let's say for instance, the bread I'm producing, 20 naira is the selling price. Cost of flour, sugar, and salt, which is variable cost, is 12 naira. And what I'm using to run the factory, I mean the rent of the factory, which is the office cost, is 120,000 naira per annum. Now ask you are required to determine the following. Look at the first one. Break-even point in units and the sales value. I hope you understand. If they give you break-even in units and they want to get a value, just multiply the unit by the what? By the selling price. So that's that. The second one is what? What number of units will be sold to achieve a profit of 40,000 naira per annum? It means that how many units of that bread will I sell so that I can make targeted profit of 40,000 naira per annum. So that's very instructive. And also, if the tax rate is 40%, that's if the rate of tax is what is 40%. If the rate of tax is 40%, how many units will be sold to make profit of 20,000 naira after tax per annum? I hope you understand what they are saying. That what is the breaking point in unit and in value? What number of units will be sold to achieve a target profit of 40,000 naira per annum? And if the tax rate is 40%, how many units will be sold to make a profit after tax? Can you see the profit after tax is 20,000, which you have to convert to profit before tax? So that's that. So now look at it. The first step is to first even determine, look at it. The first step is to itemize that fact. Look at the fact of the question. Selling price was actually 20 naira. Variable cost per unit is 12 naira. And the fixed cost happens to be 20,000 naira. Let's look at the first one, break even point in unit and the value. The break even in unit is what? Your fixed cost over contribution per unit, which is selling price and variable cost per unit. It's easy. They give me the fixed cost to be 20,000, and I divide it by what? 20 minus 12. Sorry. 20 minus 12. 20 happens to be the selling price, while the 12 happens to be the variable cost per unit. What we have is now 20,000 divided by what? Divided by 8. That's how many units. You need to produce 2,500 units before you can break even. Break even simply means a point where you neither make profit nor loss. Let me now ask you a question. Assuming Paco Limited produces the break-even unit is able to compute is what? 248, 2,480. Can anybody tell me, out of the audience now, which will he, if he is able to sell, is able to make a break-even of what? Is able to sell 2,490. Let's assume 2,490. Are they making profit or are they making loss in that company? 2,490. Is that company making profit or loss with this scenario on the board? Which one will you go for and why? Which one will you go for and why? Assuming the company produces 2,490, where its break-even units is 2,500 units. Are we saying the word is actually, what is the implication of this? If the company produces 2,490 and the break-even is what 2,500, is he making profit or loss in that scenario? Let someone tell us, is he making the profit or loss? A loss, thank you. It means that he's making a loss, thank you, because he's producing less than the what? The 2.5. That's break-even in unit is 2.5. But when you say break-even in value, then you are multiplying the unit by the selling price. You know, the selling price was actually 20 naira. I hope you understand. 20 naira. It's 20 naira. Therefore, just multiply the 2.5 by 20 naira, you give 50,000 naira. That 50,000 naira is break-even in what? In value. Now, let's look at the second question. Units to produce or to sold to achieve a profit of 40,000 naira. In this instance, how many units of that bread will I need to sell to achieve a profit of what? Of 40,000 naira. You know, this is a targeted profit now. And I told you the other time, when you are dealing with targets and divided by the contribution functions, it's a targeted profit. Look at it. Our fixed cost in the organization is 20,000. Why our targeted profit we want to make is 40,000. That means that the totality of it is what is 60,000. You now divide it by contribution per unit, which is 20 minus 12, which is 8. That means that 60,000 divided by 8, and you have what? And you have 7,500 units. That's units sold. If you want to make a profit of 40,000 naira, you must have sold 7,500 units of the product. If you don't sell up to that, then you cannot make 40,000 naira. 40,000 naira profit. I hope you understand what I'm saying now. So that's very, very, very instructive. So you need to achieve 40,000 naira profit is 7,500 naira. Now, let's say, for instance, if the tax rate is 40%, let's say I'm just giving an instance now. This no, they give us a question. They said the second was the last part of thereabouts. So the question they said, if the tax rate is 40%, how many units will be sold to make a profit of 20,000 naira after tax? You know, if the tax rate is 40%, how many units will be sold to make a profit of what? Of 20,000 naira after tax? I guess it. So in this instance, there are issues with this one. You need to be very careful when you are computing it. A bit issue. So if you look at it, say how many units we need to produce to what? To make a profit after tax of what? Of 20,000 naira. You need to do is that I told you we don't recognize profit after tax in our computation. You need to take it back to what? Profit before. What is profit before tax? Profit before tax simply means what? Simply means profit after tax divided by 1 minus tax rate. I hope you are getting me. If you look at it, the profit after tax is what? Is over 1 minus what? 1 minus tax rate. That is when you first convert the profit after tax to profit before tax. Now, after you have done the conversion, that's when you now slot it into the formula, which is fixed cost plus that profit over selling price minus variable cost per unit. So I want to take your calculator now. I want to determine my profit before tax now. 1 minus tax rate. Hope you are getting me. So and profit after tax is 20,000, and 1 minus tax rate is 1 minus 0. How much is that? That's like 3,333.33. So it is this point before tax that you now take it to what? To the formula of getting what? Of getting the number of units to what? To make that profit. You know, when you are finding the number of units now, I didn't do the computation. The number of units is now what? Now the profit before plus what? Plus how much are they making? To make a profit of 20,000 plus 20,000 over selling price minus variable cost per unit. And what is the profit before tax? You know, we have gotten it to be what? 33,333.33. 33,333.33 plus how much is the fixed cost? How much is the profit after the profit before tax is 33.33? What's the fixed cost of the organization? You now go and check the fixed cost. What's the fixed cost now? Let's check what their fixed cost is. I think they gave me fixed cost of 20,000 the other time. So you now add the fixed cost to it, which is 120,000 plus 120,000 over selling price now, 20 naira, minus variable cost per unit is what? 12 naira. So in a nutshell, if I add it together, that's 153,333, 153,333. 153,333 divided by 8. That's 19,166 units. I hope I get to 19,166 units. So it means that they did not compute that. They just need to revert back to the formula. Are you getting me in your computations? Now look at what I'm saying now. In our computation, if they ask us, they said if the tax rate is 40%, how many units should be sold to make profit of 20,000 naira after tax? And I told you first convert the after tax to before tax. If you convert it, you have the profit before tax. We will now eventually take the profit before tax and now place it to determine the number of units. And how do you do it? It's just a fixed cost plus the profit before tax over contribution. This is what this is being treated. So that's that for that. Now, we now want to look at these illustrations to portrait and knowledge of what or CVP. So what we'll do now is you give me like 2 minutes again. I'm sorry, today is I need to manage so much today. They'll give me 2 minutes, then I'll come online again. Sorry. So that's it. CPP. Let's look at this first. Now, this happens to be Ican questions that we can use in what's in portraying the knowledge of what of our CVP. And this is the question that we use today to round up. So let us now, let's take it. I'm sorry, 1 minute, please. Sorry, 1 minute. Sorry. Sorry. And let's take the questions, please. Now, limited manufactures and sells a single product. Now, immediately you hear single products in the exam, please know that this is testing at your level. Ubachuk Limited manufactures manufacturing only one product. Now, what are the information about this single product? The following data has been extracted from the current year's budget. Now, the following data has been extracted from the current year's budget. So what is the current year's budget that they have, that they extracted this from? Items, amount. They give us the contribution per unit. I hope you know the way they get the contribution per unit is always selling price minus variable cost per unit. That's our contribution. They give us the contribution per unit to be 8 naira. They now say total weekly fixed cost. That is in 1 week. The fixed cost happens to be 10,000 naira. That's total weekly fixed cost. Now, another one is weekly profits. The weekly profit happens to be what? 22,000 naira. That's the profit they are making in a week. So you are given the contribution per unit, you are given the weekly fixed cost, and you are given the weekly what? The weekly profit. And you are also given the contribution per sales ratio. Now the concern is that what is the contribution per sales ratio? That is 40%. Now when they say contribution per sales ratio is 40%, what does that mean? It simply means that they are looking at the proportion of contribution in their sales. That if I sell 1,000, my contribution in that 1,000 is 400. That's 40%. The remaining is a variable cost. I hope I get what I'm saying now. So that is what they mean by that. Now, the next one is what? Look at it. Contribution to sales ratio is 40%. Now, the company's production capacity is not fully utilized. It means that they have not fully utilized their capacity. They are still ability to produce more than what they are currently producing. That's what they mean by that, the current year. And they now have 3 possible strategies under consideration because they have not been able to produce all what it's possible for them to prepare with their machines. Then they said they now have 3 strategies. Now, what are the 3 strategies? These strategies are under considerations, please. Each strategy involves reducing the unit selling price on all units sold with a consequential effect on the volume of sales. Let me ask you, if you reduce selling price of the product, what happens to the volume of sales? The volume of sales will jump up. I hope you get what I'm saying now. If the selling price drop, the volume of sales will increase. If the selling price increases, the volume of sales will drop. That's law of demand. So their strategy will be such that they want to see that if they reduce their selling price, what happens to their quantity? sorry, what happened to the quantity they are selling? It will go up. So let's look at their strategy now, because that's what they're actually looking at when they say their strategy. Look at the strategy. They said the detailed effect of each strategy is as follows. Let's look at detailed effect now. The strategy now. Strategy A, B, and C. Now for strategy A, they are looking at reducing the selling price by 2%. Can you see in percentage? If they reduce it by 2%, the weekly sales volume over the budget, this is supposed to be increased, not increase in weekly sales volume over budget. That's the rate of increase in which you have in your sales will now be 10%. When there is a 2% drop in my selling price, my volume will go up by what? By 10%. And when there is a 5% drop in selling price, my quantity will go up by how many percent? 18%. And when there is a drop of 7% in selling price, my quantity will move up by what? By 25%. The now said the company does not hold inventory of finished stock. That's they don't hold stocks. There is no closing stock. This happens to be a past question. They now say calculate. What are you asked to calculate? The selling price per unit of the production for the current year. What's now the selling price per unit for the current year? The next one is what? They ask them to produce to determine the weekly sales unit and value for the current year. What is the weekly sales unit? What is the current year's break-even point in units and in value? Are you getting me? And the last one is what? Determine with a statement which one of the three strategies should be adopted by the company in order to maximize its weekly profit. These are the concerns in these questions. Now let us start with the first one. And the first one happens to be what? The selling price. Now, if you are looking for the selling price, how do we go? Let us go back to the question. If you go back to that past questions that are solving now, if you're looking for the selling price, what's the best way to get the selling price in these past questions? Now, you are given the contribution per unit to be 8 naira, and you are given the contribution per sales ratio to be what? 40%. Why not go through the contribution per sales ratio formula? You see that it will throw up more light. And when you say contribution per sales ratio, that is you are looking at the selling price, minus the variable cost per unit over the selling price. Hope you get what I'm saying now. Selling price minus the variable cost per unit over the selling price. That's your contribution per sales ratio. And they said it must be equal to what? 40 over 100. That's 40%. So now, with that, it will be easier for me to get my selling price if I manipulate that middle. Let us now look at what it is. Now look at it. No, they told us already that contribution per sales ratio to sales ratio is what? Is 40%. That's your contribution for sales ratio. Now, but the contribution per unit is how many units now? Is how much? 8 naira. That's the contribution per what? Per unit. But contribution per sales ratio is what? Is 40%. And the one they gave us per unit is 8 naira. Now say, what is now the contribution to sales ratio? You have been given the contribution to sales ratio to be 40%. Let us look at the content of contribution to sales ratio. Now, contribution to sales ratio is what? Is selling price minus variable cost per unit over selling price. I guess what I'm saying now, selling price minus variable cost per unit over selling price. Now, that's contribution per sales ratio. And they say it's equal to 40%. That means that if it's equal to 40%, now my contribution per sales ratio, which is 40%, is equal to what is selling price minus variable cost per unit? That should be 8 naira. That's contribution per unit. Contribution is selling price and variable cost per unit. Instead of me to look for selling price and variable cost per unit here, I'll just put 8 naira there. That's 8 naira over selling price. Therefore, I can now multiply together. I can say, if we multiply this, we will now have what? Selling price is equal to 20 naira. You do your multiplication right, realize that selling price is equal to what? 20 naira. Now, what is now the second question is what is the weekly sales in units and in value for the current year? Now, if you want to get the weekly sales in units and in value, that means that you want to get how much exactly are they making a sales of in units? And how do they make that sales in units? It is more of what? Weekly sales in units. Are you getting me now? It is what? In the question, they give us a profit statement now that they are meant to make 22,000 naira profit. Therefore, I can say the fixed cost happens to be 10,000, the profit happens to be what? 22,000, and the contribution per unit happens to be what? 8,000 units. I hope I get what I'm saying. Like, these are the weekly sales unit is what? Is 4,000 units. But if they say in value, how do? You just multiply by what? By selling price. The selling price of what? Of this is what? It's 20 naira. If you multiply 20 naira by 4 naira, 4,000 is 80,000 naira. Now, means that the 80,000 naira is break even in what? In value. Now, let's look at the next one. They said the current year break even in units and in value. I hope you know the meaning of current year break even in units and in value. Whatever we are computing in this question is in weeks. Like this, if you now say current year, that is how many weeks in a year? That should be 52 weeks now. So nobody is going to tell you that you really want to work around that. Now look at it. The current year break even in unit, break even is fixed cost over selling price and variable cost per unit. And our fixed cost happens to be 10,000. And our variable cost per unit is 8 naira. You now say the break even unit is 1,250 units per week. But they said the current year, not in weeks now. How many weeks make 1 year? That's 52 weeks. They do it right. That's 52 weeks. Then to convert this 1,250 to the what to value, to convert it to a year now, how much they what? How much the break even in what in a year? Because look at it, it will now be what? 1,250 times what? Times 52 weeks, which is 65,000 units per what? Per year. So please note that when they say current year, you are multiplying by what? By 12. So annual break even in value now. We need to now convert it to value. These are units. Now, if 1,250 is the break even in unit before, then we are now multiplying it by the selling price to give you 25,000 naira. Why annual break even in value? That's annual break even in value. What do? You just multiply the one in units by the 52 weeks, which give you 1.3 million. This is annual break even in value. I hope you're getting me. So if you want to convert from unit to value, what you just need to do is you just multiply the units that you got by the respective selling price. Then you get what the break even was in value. Let's now look at what are the opposition of the three strategies. The three strategies now. Look at we said we have strategy A, strategy B, strategy C. Now in strategy A, now they say you have to reduce your selling price by what? By 2%. While your increase in sales volume is at what? Is at 10%. This is if you reduce the selling price by 2%, then you increase the sales volume by what? By 10%. That was the initial strategy, which is strategy A. Now, how can I increase the selling price by what? By the selling price by 2%? No, the current selling price happens to be 20 naira. You just multiply it by what? By 0.98. You move the 2 from 100, you get 0.98. From 1, you get 0.98. 0.98 times 20 will give you 19.6. So instead of to add 20 naira as your selling price, to be 19 naira 60 cup. Now, if the new selling price is 19 naira 60 cup instead of 20 naira, what is the new quantity now? Internal sales units is 4,000 units. Now, if you now want to, you say you should increase the unit by 10%. That is when you multiply by 1.1, which is 4,400. So implication is that, therefore, The profits now will not be, sales will not be the new selling price times the number of units. You know, you got the new selling price the other time, sure? So the new selling price is now 19.60 kobo, which is the next one we are doing under under this. So look at it. If we now want to determine the profit of this strategy, we now say sales minus what? Sales minus cost. Look at what we do. What's your sales now? It's 19.6 times what? Times 4,400, because that's the new selling price now, 19.6, and that's a new unit now, which is 4,400. You have 86,240 in that insert. But if you look at your variable cost still remains 12 naira times 4,400. I hope you're getting me now. Because I hope you know the way we got the 12 naira. We got the 12 naira by looking at the selling price and the what and the contribution. You know, the other time our selling price was 20 naira and our contribution was 8 naira. If you remove contribution from selling price, you get what? You will get your variable cost. That means that you say 20 minus 8, you get your what? Your variable cost. And the variable cost here is 12 naira times what? 4,400 units. But that's the new unit. Now, that will be 52,800. You remove it from this, you have contribution of this, and you let the fixed cost. You have the profits of 23,440. So that's the profit. The profit for the first strategy is what? 23,440. I hope you are following now. So now, in this instance, here in strategy A, the company, they adopt strategy A, that is if they reduce their selling price by 2% and increase their sales volume by 10%, we are going to have a profit, and that profit will be 23,440. Now, the profit for the first strategy is 23,440. So that's the profit for that. Then we'll now go ahead again to strategy B. We'll do the same thing. But if you look at the content of strategy B, I think they told us what are words we are picking and so on, you know. In strategy B, look at it. Look at strategy. For strategy B, they say we should reduce selling price by 5% and increase what? Quantity sold, the volume by what? By 18%. It means that selling price reduced by 5%, but the volume will increase by 18%. Yeah, let's look at it. Now, for strategy B now, we are reducing it by 5%. The current selling price, which is 20 naira times 0.95, that's 19 naira. While increase in sales volume is 18%. That's the quantity was actually 4,000, you increase it by 18%. Well, that's times 1.18, you have 4.720. So what do we do in this program? Now say sales. What's our sales now? 19 naira. And what's the sales volume? That's 4,720. That will give me what? 89,680. That's what strategy B. It says. Now the variable cost still remain at 12 naira. I hope you understand what I'm saying now. The variable cost still remain at what? 12 naira per unit. And what are the number of units you are dealing with? 4,720. I hope you understand the way we are picking it. You know, reduction in selling price is 5%. We multiply by 0.95. Increase in sales volume is what? Is 18%. Multiplied by 1.18. That's what give you 19,472. Now the sales is now 19 naira times 472, which is 89,680. Now the variable cost now is still 12 naira times 4,720, which is this. While the fixed cost is how much? The fixed cost happens to be 10,000. Remove 10,000 from this, you have 23,040, which is profit. It means that for strategy B, they are making a what? They're making a profit of how much? 23,040. That's for the second one. So you now go to strategy C also. You now go and replicate the same thing in strategy C. If you look at strategy C, you realize that they have what? It's the same Let me now ask you now. Can anybody quickly compute the CIGC for me? Let me see the course of the questions. What are they reducing? What are they? Now, in the course, the selling price by 7% and increase the sales by 25%. That's reduce selling price by 7% and increase sales volume by 25%. That's 7%, 7% and what, and 25%. Now, I want you to look at it. Now, can you quickly compute that for me now? The third scenario. I want to compute the third scenario for me. When the selling price reduces by 7% and the sales volume increases by 25%, what will be the likely profit that you declare if you are the manager in that instance? Let's quickly do that. Do that. I'm also doing my own. Oh yeah. What's the answer? Can you do that? I think we have the answer here. Don't bother. Let's look at it. Now, the third original. We're looking at the third original. This is the first, second, and third. You did not. I thought I had it here. No, I didn't have it here. Okay, please let us work it out together here on this platform. Let's do the CIGC on platform, please. I want us to do it. Look at CIGC. I want you to do CIGC. Please put your bio on paper and start CIGC. CIGC is saying that what? You reduce selling price by 7% and what? Increase quantity by what? By 25%. Oh yeah, please quickly do it. Oh yeah, please quickly do. So I'm still expecting. I want to put your bio on paper. Yeah, quickly do. I want to quickly do. So what's the answer? Just put your answer for me. Let me see. So what's the answer? Okay. Okay, you have submitted your answer. Oh, that's correct. 23,000. Thank you, Richard. Richard, thank you. It's 23,000 naira. Oh, Oluwadamola Richard. Okay, thank you. 23,000 naira. Okay, another view. So it's 23,000 naira. So the implication of it is that if you do the third scenario, when you reduce the selling price by 7%, what will be the new selling price now? The new selling price will be what? 18.6 naira. That's 18 naira. Then what happened to your currency? Currency will increase by 25%. Can you see? If 4,000 increase by 25%, that will be, it give you how much? It will give you 5,000 units. So that's what you will use. And if you do all this, you use it to compute and you remove your fixed cost, you have what? 23,000. So impliedly, 23,000 will be the profit they will make in the third year. Now let's look at it in the third scenario strategy. In the first strategy, they made 23,440. In the second scenario, they made 23,040. While the third scenario that I gave you now, which is the C, they made what? 23,000 naira as profit. So in the implication is that what? Between that, which one are we going to choose? We are going to choose strategy A. Because strategy A is the one that gives the maximum what? Maximum profit. So that's how to resolve that question of what of this nature. So please notice this. That's how to resolve it. He said, determine with a statement which one of the three strategies should be adopted by the company in order to maximize what weekly profits. The first strategy will be the strategies will be used to maximize what? To maximize profit of the organization. And that is what we have under the questions. I want to ask questions. If you have any question, you can ask me. I'm listening. I'm listening. So each of these strategy now is good, but the first one that you use will be the first one. So okay. The first strategy is the one is the best. Why is it the best? Because it has the highest profits comparatively. Hope you're getting it now. So that's how you can make a decision under this topic. Any question on this, please? Now, pick your bio. Let's quickly do this brain teaser, please. This little brain teaser. If the selling price of a product, if the selling price is equal to 40 naira, if the selling price is equal to 40 naira and the variable cost equal to 15 naira, selling price is 40 naira, variable cost is 15 naira, and the fixed cost is equal to 100,000 naira. 100,000 naira required. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Selling price happens to be 40 naira, variable cost per unit happens to be 15 naira, and the fixed cost happens to be 100,000 naira. And that's required. Determine the break-even in units. I have to determine the break-even in what? In units. It means that with that information, determine break-even in units. Now say assuming that's the answer, that's the question. But I'm now giving an extension to that question now. Question B now. Now that happens to be question A. Assuming the selling price assuming the company reduces the selling price by 10%, assuming the company reduces the selling price by 10%, and variable cost increases by 5%. Increases by 5%. Require determine the number of units to produce to make the initial profit. Now, look at the question. Initial profit maybe is maybe 50,000 naira. Let's assume. And let me explain again. I just want us to walk around this. Look at it. If you are walking around this, assuming okay, you can now I want to do this for me, please. And to be very, very lovely if you can do it as an assignment, please. Let me see if you can. If selling price if selling price is $14. Variable cost tomorrow morning on WhatsApp. I guess the latest tomorrow morning, I will send the question to you. Let it be like that. So that you will attempt the questions and you now send it to me via WhatsApp. Please, I appeal to you to send the question via WhatsApp. Answer via WhatsApp, please. Let me look at what you will do. I get it now. But basically, based on these questions, I think we're good to go. There has to be a 20 marks question in your exam. Up in the even at skill level, and they can drop it for you in your exam. I guess me that because I've seen instances where they drop the final exam, the final year, the last level exam to skill, so that they cannot. It will be out of place if some of the questions are meant for the skill. I also drop for you to do. I guess in MI. So please, I want you to just please try to look at these questions very well critically and see if there are any issues you need to trash it before the exam. I guess. So let me ask you let me have your questions generally. Just ask questions generally if you have, so that I can note them. So if I cannot answer it here, I can note them for purpose of what, or attend it to you later. Even in any other areas that you think you quickly have issues with, let me know. So what are the problems? You want to tell me some of the areas of problems that you have in your MI? I'm giving you sleepless nights. So the assignment, you can submit it anytime. Tomorrow, next tomorrow, please make it available to me online via WhatsApp. So let me just have it. I will send it to